Anybody guess what's in this box? What's going on, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to my latest episode. So I asked earlier what's in the box. What it is a differential that I'm going to be putting in my GTO. So why did I go with a used differential? A couple reasons. When I was driving my car, I diagnosed that there was an issue in the back. I had a video up of me seeing what was wrong, and there was a lot of play in the rear. So when I drive the car and I'm going straight down the road, everything is fine. There's a little bit of play, you can feel it, but everything is fine. When I make a turn, you could actually hear the gears in the differential sound kind of crunchy. Most likely something wore out or something broke and it's kind of caught in there and damaged them. So what I decided to do was get a used one. My choices were, instead of doing this used one, I was thinking of maybe getting a brand new one from General Motors. The problem with a brand new one is General Motors has them pretty much out of stock. And if they do have them, it's over $2,000 for a brand new one. And unfortunately, you know, I have a car collection, so if I have to choose between spending $2,000 in one of the cars, it wouldn't be on something like a differential. I would rather use that money towards an engine or a transmission or maybe a set of rims and tires. Differential-wise, I was thinking, oh, okay, well, I have the ability to rebuild it. So I wanted to rebuild it, and unfortunately, all the parts that I needed to get between seals, a ring and pinion, and then reusing my existing differential, well, that was going to cost almost $2,000 as well. I could have possibly gotten away with just doing a ring and pinion, but if the differential needed to be rebuilt, which I'm pretty sure it does, those parts were pretty hard to find, and if they were able to be found, they were very expensive. So I decided, okay, let me go with a used one, and the reason why I was okay buying a used one, you could be putting the same problem back in your car. You might actually be buying a used part with the same problem that your car currently has. However, this used one came from a friend of mine, Jack, but he actually has cars that he buys personally that he takes apart and supplies the parts. So I bought one of his because I know it was going to be low mileage and I know it's not going to be in bad shape. And even, you know, even if it has 50,000 miles on it, it doesn't bother me because my car has 130,000 miles on it. So it's going to definitely be a better situation. And what it will allow me to do is pull mine out, and then I'll have the ability now down the road to have a spare one, and I could always rebuild my spare one and then save it for any kind of future, you know, if I need a new one or possibly an upgraded one that can handle more power. You know, who knows what path I take this car down. So today we're going to be talking about putting this in the car. You can see it looks pretty dirty. What I'm going to do is degrease it. I'm going to get the rust off of it. I'm going to paint it. I'm also going to check out inside. I want to see what the gears look like. I'm also going to show how to get the other differential out of the car and install this one. So stay tuned. I'm going to put you guys onto my tripod and get set up so I can start showing you what I would do if I were going to swap a differential into a car. So sit tight. Okay, so here we are on my workbench. So for me, you know, putting a used part in a car, it really doesn't bother me. You know, I don't do a lot of used parts, but in this situation, I'm going used for a reason. And, you know, down the road, if I end up having a problem, it really doesn't bother me because I could just throw the car back on the lift and I can, you know, pull it out, and I'll probably have the spare one that I'm going to rebuild down the road anyway. So it doesn't bother me. Now, maybe for you, you might not want to go this route, but if you can truly find something that's low mileage or get it from a friend, great, go for it, because saving money is important, especially when you have a bunch of cars or even if you're paying a mortgage. What I'm going to be doing is I at least want to check inside. I want to make sure there's no damage. Now, my friend Jack did send me pictures, but I at least want to see for myself, and it's not because I don't trust him. It's just because I like to know beforehand. What I'm going to be doing is, if you see here around the seals, there is gunk. What I want to do is I want to try and knock all this gunk off, and I want to knock the gunk off the cover. So when I take this off and I look inside, I don't want there to be debris flying around. And God forbid I get debris inside of it, I don't want to mess it up. So the first thing I'm going to be doing is taking some degreaser, and I at least want to hit around the seal. I'm going to tilt it downward. You should be doing this, especially if you're going to be popping your axles in. You don't want this debris around here because you don't want the debris to get in there when you pop your axles in, because it can wear out the seal and damage the axles themselves. Now in here, I'm going to end up putting, you know, this rag on the end of something so I can get into the lip. I want to make sure the seal is nice and clean. I'm getting to the point where I'm going to have to pull the bolts. There's some spots that I just can't get to. Okay, so you should be able to see inside. What I wanted to do is I wanted to check the operation of the ring and pinion. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check to see if I have some grease in the shop. I want to check tooth contact. I'm just going to put a little bit of this on the teeth. What I want to check is I want to see pinion contact to the ring. I'm just checking for myself. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to see what kind of squeeze there is between the gears. See, like right here, you can actually see how well the pinion and the ring are grabbing each other. That also shows me that there's no damage to the pinion. I actually have a grease for this. Now all I'm going to do is just go in there and clean that out real quick. Okay, so I'm at this point in the replacement of the diff where I'm going to hit this with rust converter. Okay, so what I'm going to do is roll this over here and let it sit, and then I'll start working on the GTO. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to be doing is pulling the wheels. Let me get the camera over to a section where you could actually see that done. Okay, so here we are. I put you guys on my lighted rig so you can get a better view underneath the car. I'm going to turn the light on and let's see what we need to do to pull this differential out. So here's the differential. Right off the bat, we have a mount. We have our axles. And unfortunately, it looks like I have to pull the exhaust. I might be able to get this drive shaft out without having to pull the exhaust, but it would be much easier without the exhaust in the way. And then probably what I should do is drain this while it's actually in here. I have a transmission jack. I'm gonna go grab that transmission jack, put a container here to catch all the fluid, and then I might need the transmission jack to actually grab this and pull it down. I don't know. It just makes life easier. Does everybody have one? No, but if you're laying down on the ground and doing this in your garage, you could use a jack to do it. So the other thing I noticed while I was under here the other day is my fuel lines and brake lines are getting kind of rusted. What I'm going to be doing is removing the brake lines and the fuel lines, putting brand new brake lines and fuel lines in, but I'm going to be running aftermarket fuel lines and aftermarket brake lines, something stainless steel or steel braided. That way in the future I don't have to deal with changing them again. That seems to be a common problem on GTOs. So in the meantime, I'm going to set up for taking the exhaust and drive shaft down, and then maybe getting my trans jack and draining the fluid. Okay, so here we are under the car. Now my car has the Stainless Works exhaust. It's stainless steel. It is, what I'm gonna end up doing is taking it off the car in one piece. I don't want to take it off in sections because when you have an exhaust system that's set up like this where it actually clamps together, what ends up happening is the nuts on the clamps end up being so rusted that when you try breaking them loose, you basically just snap them off And sometimes when you're trying to get the pipes apart, they're so rusted together. I know it's stainless steel, but sometimes there's corrosion and buildup over the years. And you just can't get the pipes out. And if you can get them out, sometimes you can't get them back in, and then you have fitment issues. So I'd rather bring the whole thing down in one shot. Now, if you're laying under a car to try and pull your exhaust down, it's always good to have a couple jacks. So when I say jacks, I mean heavy duty ones, not those little thin ones. I mean like a big floor jack. It's good to support the car safely, and then what you can do is you can loosen your exhaust, bring your jack up, unhook the final part of the exhaust, and then lower the whole thing with your jack. What I'm going to be doing is using a trans jack. It's the same concept, but it's just done a little differently, obviously, because I'm up on a lift. I can't get a floor jack up this high to pull the exhaust down. So I'm going to try and pull this down in one shot. I have a couple spots that I can remove. Right here and right here I have some aftermarket band clamps. When I rebuilt my transmission, I put these band clamps in place because I knew in the future this would have to come out at some point again, and it was much easier than dealing with all the rusted bolts that are on the factory part of the system. So that's what I'm going to work on now, getting this exhaust out. Hopefully this lighting works. I tried a new lighting rig, and hopefully it's nice and bright so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so it is getting late in the day, and unfortunately what's about to happen is a cold front's coming in. It may actually just rain, it also possibly snow. What I'm going to do is throw a quick paint job on my differential. I have some POR 15, it's a rust preventive paint. I'm going to put that on today, so tomorrow when I continue on with the install, it actually has nice dry paint, so I'm not dealing with having to paint it tomorrow as well. It'll be able to dry overnight, so I'm going to get on to doing that now. Okay, so I'm going to be finishing this up tomorrow. I just wanted to throw a coat of paint on it today, so tomorrow I didn't have to deal with wet paint when I was putting it in the car. I'm going to be taking the cover tomorrow and cleaning up the cover so it'll have a nice shiny black outside with a nice aluminum cover. So what I'm going to do is let this dry overnight, and then tomorrow continue on with the install. So here we are, it's actually the next day. Yesterday we ended up having a pretty nasty rainstorm. It got really cold in the shop, so I had to pause, and I wanted to continue on today. Luckily it's a nice enough day out. It's still cold, but it's a nice enough day. Here we are with the center carrier. The differential looks pretty nice. This is POR 15. It's a rust preventive paint. I don't know why, but I guess from the factory they don't put anything on the center section of the differential, so I at least wanted something on there to make it look nice. What I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to doing the rear cover that goes on this. It's a nice aluminum cover, but I wanted to clean it up and be able to get it ready for installation. The other things I'm going to have to do is put the side axles and the pinion flange on, And in the next part of the process is I have to get the car back up in the air, and then I'm going to complete or continue removing the other one and then put this one in. So I'm going to get you on the tripod now. Okay, here we are. The car's back up in the air. Looks like all I need to do is remove these Allen head bolts on the axles, and they'll separate. I'm going to be removing these speed sensors. I have some various bolts on the top and the sides of the carrier that I need to remove to get it out, and then I'm going to swap over this drain plug because it was brand new. Okay, like I said, most people do not have a lift, but you just want to obviously put something under here and drain it before you remove it, because if you forget to and you start moving this thing around, you might spill gear oil all over yourself. I struggled for a little bit on this. I did try heating the bolts up. They are beyond stuck. I mean, they're old. They've been on there a long time and they've never been touched. I mean, someone prior to me tried breaking those loose at some point, but I don't think they can get them loose. But I noticed something. I realized these just pop in, which I knew. So I thought about it. What would happen if I just pop these or try and slide them out? There actually might be enough play that I could just pop these right out of the differential without having to remove the bolts. Okay, so I just want to show you what's going on. I'm sure people who own GTOs are going to be going through this same nightmare that I'm going through. You know, hey, cars get old, they get rusty, they get corroded. So what's happening is there's two speed sensors back here. I'm assuming these are for ABS. They are so corroded that trying to get them loose, they actually snapped. All I did, I was trying to pry a screwdriver under here, right where they're mounted, and the speed sensor snapped right where it goes into the housing, and the bolts actually snapped holding them in, so it's pretty corroded. The other thing that's happening is there's so much corrosion on the nuts for the axles that the corrosion's keeping these from turning. So here's the next part of the process. On top of this differential, there's 4 big bolts. The big bolts are up here on the very, very top. What I want to do is show you the best way to break them loose. Now, there is a chance they could be so stuck I might need the torch. I'd like to avoid that because if you notice up above the differential is the evaporator canister. This is actually when the fuel system starts pressurizing. It's the vapors from the fuel system, and I don't want to take a chance putting any heat near that because God forbid, you know, it can cause an explosion or set the car on fire. And right above it is the gas tank, so we definitely don't want to mess with heat in this area. But again, up here is where the bolts are. I'm going to show you an easy way, or hopefully an easy way, how to break those loose. So I'm going to set you up where you can see what I'm doing. All right, so what I'm doing is I'm taking a 17mm wrench, putting it on the bolt, making sure it's on there nice and square and not loose. And then what I'm also doing is taking this larger wrench, this is a 1-inch, and I'm sticking it into the boxed end or the open end of the wrench, and that adds leverage to the bolt. It's tight, but the extra leverage helps it move. Ugh, man, that was tight. Oh yeah, these are tight too, but they came loose, or at least the one came loose. Okay, good. Okay, I realized after the fact that even though I was using the bolts to hold it up in place, that this big bushing in the back is actually holding it, so I feel a little dumb, but at the same time I have never pulled one of these before. The next thing I'm going to be doing is I have the last bolt coming out. I'm going to be getting the trans jack ready, and like I said, if you were doing this in your driveway, you would be putting a jack underneath. But I'm going to get the trans jack ready, then what I'm going to do is get ready to support this differential. So when I drop it down, I'm going to try and sneak these axles out. I'm fairly certain I could pop these axles out without having to remove them. Hopefully this will help somebody in the future, because it's a little bit of a nightmare. But hopefully I could save somebody from going through the same hassle. Okay, sit tight. I'm going to switch everything over so you guys can see what happens. So the other thing I'm going to do before I drop this thing down is I'm going to pop this other axle out. The reason being is when it's unbolted and loose and you try and put leverage on it, it might just move around instead of coming loose. So I'm going to do it now. Yeah, it's in there pretty tight. Wow, it's in there really tight. There we go. Okay, the differential is finally cut loose. I'm pretty sure these axles are going to come out. So what I'm going to do is start dropping it and see what happens. Huh. That's interesting. Oh, look at that. I learned something new. If you loosen this bracket in the back, it's actually holding up the entire rear cradle. If you loosen this, it'll drop the cradle with it slightly, and that'll allow you access to the bolts on top. I wish I knew that before. I would have said something, but I just realized it now. Okay. So this is the point where I think I could sneak these axles out. I might need to go up a little higher. They're almost out. Might need to slide it a little bit over and back. Maybe a little lower. Let's try. Yep. Okay, it's one out. Yeah, look at that. Nice little trick. So, I wish that was something I knew ahead of time. I would have explained it a little more professionally, but at least you get to see it in real time as I learn it, and it's something that hopefully will help you. Hey, what's going on, everybody? So I'm in my shop working on my friend's big turbo project, and I decided to film this add-on to the previous footage that I took on doing the differential in the GTO. What ended up happening was I filmed 2.5 hours worth of footage removing the center section, cleaning the differential, checking the operation of the ring gears, installing the new center section, and then taking the car for a drive. When I edited everything, it turned into about an hour's worth of footage, and instead of putting out one long hour video, I decided to cut it into 2 parts. So I'm filming this obviously on a later date. As you can see, the GTO's not in the shop, to let everybody know that that's what I'm doing, and I really appreciate all of the support, and I appreciate everyone who likes and subscribes to my videos. I just want to let everyone know that I'm trying to do new content every Monday and every Thursday. So far I've been able to do it, and I hope everybody continues to enjoy my videos, and have a nice day, everyone.